There are all kinds of places where we hit our capacity when it comes to business and life. And financial capacity is one that I hear over and over and over again. And the excuse is I cannot grow, I cannot do more because I don't have access to capital. I don't have enough money. I've maxed out on my loans. I don't have any more cash. And my guest today is here to maybe help you get over your fear of raising capital and bringing other people's money into what it is that you're doing in the world and whatever your business is. So I'm so excited to have my guest here today. I cannot wait to introduce you to her shortly. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. Welcome back to the Conscious Edge podcast. I'm your host, Alicia St. Germain, where I help women entrepreneurs get out of their own way so they can reach their goals, increase their capacity, have the business they want, and let it support the life that they're living. Lauren Brychell, I'm so happy to have you here because we just recently met and I hear this all the time. I don't have enough money.
Absolutely. Yes.
So tell people what you do. What is your little contribution in the world?
Well, thank you for having me today, Alicia. So my contribution to the world is helping people figure out how to raise more capital and using other people's money to grow and scale and to fulfill those dreams.
Amazing. And what is your background that led you to doing this?
Yep. So a little bit of a funky background, but started out in marketing, quickly transitioned over into the capital raising space, actually kind of on a whim. I had a great mentor who decided I would be good at it. And I said, I don't know what capital raising is, but it sounds fun. So that's kind of where I started, really knowing absolutely nothing. And then after a couple of years, getting really schooled up in it, raising about 75 million myself for this firm. And now I help other sponsors and GPs and people looking to raise capital with their marketing and lead generation and everything else that goes along with it.
So as for someone who is like brand new to this concept of raising capital, I hear a lot of business owners think that their only path to go is through traditional financing or traditional business financing, right? And so people raise capital for a lot of different reasons. So when someone raises capital, what are they deploying it into?
So to your point, lots of different things. It could be for a development project. It could be for capital to grow their existing business. It could be to acquire a small business or a portfolio of businesses or a portfolio of real estate. Really, the options are endless, and the types of capital that you can raise is also endless.
So no longer can any of you have the excuse or tell me there's no access to money. I always said money follows great deals in the real estate space, but that really can apply to a lot of different types of investment. And especially when people are looking for different places to put their money where they feel like they maybe have a little bit more control, or they want to feel like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves. And they really want to have like a connection to what they're investing in. I think that is an opportunity for someone who has a full-time job and has cash and wants to see it grow in a meaningful way. Being able to invest with someone like you, the entrepreneur, it can be really rewarding, right?
Absolutely. And people love to invest with people doing things that are interesting to them and things that they understand. So there is a niche for everyone.
That's really cool. So I want to talk on the personal note for a second, but like what made you say, I'm going to focus in on this thing and I'm going to take the leap myself into entrepreneurship and start my own business?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely a scary leap to take, but I felt really confident in my skills in this very niche space of finding and building relationships with and raising capital from retail high net worth individuals. And I knew I could help other people do that. Because yes, there's a lot of education out there, but it can be hit or miss. And coming from that background, I knew that I could help on an individualized level and help implement too. Because a lot of people say, hey, I just don't have the time or the interest or the knowledge to go out and do this, but I need it. And so I could come in and fix all of those barriers for them. And it gives me an outlet to be creative. Every deal is different. Every investor base is different. And it's just so much fun to dive in and put together something very special for each person.
That's what I want to hear. Like, I want to hear where it's like hits your soul, right? So you get to do things creatively and you get to just really apply what it is that you're most talented at, which is really cool. So what have been some of the challenges in making that transition from being employed to being the CEO?
I mean, the challenges honestly have been a little bit internal, to be honest. It's something where it's almost that effect of, gosh, do I have enough knowledge to help other people? Or it's some of a self-limiting belief, right? That you've just got to get over because it's like, okay, well, hold on. I do have the experience. I really can help folks. And so getting out of my head has honestly been one of the biggest challenges. I've been really, really lucky to have a great network of clients and referrals and everything else since I opened the doors. So that's been amazing. I got, like I said, very lucky there. But just getting out of my own way and showing up for my clients and keeping on top of all the new trends and tech pieces and everything else has been the other biggest challenge because that's ever changing. There's so many new AI tools to use. And
I was just going to ask you, like, is AI like keeping you on your toes through this? And how is it applying? I'm really curious.
Oh my gosh. Every day I feel like a new tool that's coming out. So lots of ways to apply it. Obviously, it's making marketing and messaging a little bit easier, right? Once you figure out, okay, how are we going to show up and what's our story that we want to be telling to our investors? So it makes that easier. Graphic design world has changed completely since AI has come in, not necessarily in 100% fashion, but the 80% solution is there. Just, and being more consistent in everything that you're doing has been a lot easier with AI as well. When we're talking about drip campaigns or putting content out there on a regular basis. A lot of it can be automated, again, up to 80-90% now, which is a huge time saver.
Yeah. So I want to go into, you talked about a little bit about you in your mindset piece. And I know that before we hit record, we were talking about a couple situations that specifically you've navigated with your clients and obviously yourself with imposter syndrome. We just did an episode on imposter syndrome right before this came out. So as you're navigating through some of that, that's what I really want to talk to you about because you actually have a book that just came out. I didn't even know that it was coming out. And that takes someone through a lot of the how-tos of how to invest. So we'll make sure we share your book and everything so that people can go through the how-tos. They can hire you. And we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But when we think about raising capital, the limiting belief or big assumption, as I call them, if you're new here, big assumption is a term we throw around all the time. It is the capacity limiter. It's the belief that we make up unconsciously that says, this is how the world works. This is how we exist in it. And it drives your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And it creates that ceiling that makes it so that you are unable to get to that next level, to hold something bigger than what you are right now. So that kind of gives you some context. And one of the aspects that comes up for people is they do have the imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? Like, why would people invest with me? So tell me more about, what do you tell people?
Sure. Well, from the most basic level, I tell them that everyone had to start somewhere. Everyone raised their first dollar at some point. So you are no different than anybody else out there getting started. And it feels really scary. And you feel like, gosh, well, will anyone invest with me? Why would they invest with me? Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not a super expert yet. Maybe I'm only on my first or second deal. But again, everyone started somewhere. And so getting out of your head on that and just remembering the bigger picture of literally everyone raised their first dollar at some point, and to put your best foot forward, be authentic, and just show up as you are and be honest about it. Say, hey, yeah, this is my first deal and I'm really excited about it. And I'm putting all my eggs in this basket right now. And I'd love for you to join me. Kind of gives that potential investor the confidence as well. Say, okay, I know that you're new and that's okay because I like you and I trust you and I know you're going to do a great job. And just because you're not experienced doesn't mean you're not going to, hit it out of the park. So I think it's just getting out of that limiting belief and just saying, okay, you know what? I'm just like everyone else when they got started and they found investors too.
Well, and it's interesting because sometimes it's not a lack of experience. It's just a lack of experience raising capital.
Right.
Like you have experience in all the things that you've done before. Now you're playing a bigger game. And I imagine when you are putting together kind of the package, not the kind of, but the package that someone is presenting to potential investors. These are all things that you're walking through with them. Like, what are some of the aspects that you would tell someone to look at, that you would tell someone to highlight that could help them to move past this imposter syndrome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. They probably aren't on their first deal when they're actually going to raise capital and building a bigger portfolio there. So I would highlight any past experience, your story, your why. Bring some human aspects into it because, yes, people are investing in your deal, but they're really investing in you as well and your competency and your passion behind the deal. And they can feel that, or they should be able to feel that through the marketing materials and through talking with you. So I would put a lot of focus around your why and your story and your values and your team and every other piece of this that might be applicable that's going to paint a larger picture than just the deal at hand. And I think that's really what helps sell the investors on it and raise capital more effectively.
And your excitement. I mean, I know that so many people are like, if I'm excited about something, they're like, I don't know what we're excited about, but let's go do it because it sounds amazing. And
that's so
obviously
true.
back it up with being legitimate and, having good systems and processes in place. But how much do you think when you talk about why? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So for an example, a why could be, hey, I started doing these real estate deals on the side from my W-2 job, for example, because I want to find financial freedom. I eventually want more time with my family, my kids who are young. That is my purpose and my why of why I'm working nights and weekends and trying to make this business grow and scale. And I think that why will relate with a lot of your investors or your potential investors, which is why it's so important. Because they could be thinking, you know what, that is so true. I identify with that and I also value that. And that's why I'm looking to invest with someone who has the same interests and alignments as I do, because I want that too. I've got a family and that's the most important thing. And let's build this together. Let's partner on this together and both move towards achieving that goal. So I think people really relate to that. And that kind of helps build that trust in that relationship because you're looking to do the same thing and achieve the same goals. And so why not do it together?
Right. Right. I love that. The other scenario we talked about was someone who is raising capital. And then there's like what you can do to amplify it. Right. And so what happens in that scenario? What gets in the way there? I have a thought on it, but I want to see what you say.
Sure. So it could be honestly a couple of different things, but generally speaking, it's probably a misalignment in your messaging and who you're trying to target. A lot of people, they call it spray and pray, right? They just throw their marketing.
Spray and pray. I've never heard that.
Yeah. You're spraying your marketing materials out to everyone and praying that someone sees it and likes it and comes back to you.
Oh my gosh, I'm picturing a skunk spraying like some stink out there and like, never mind. I had a totally different visual than you.
Yes, but I mean, exactly. That's a great visual, right? You're just hoping that someone picks it up versus taking a lot more targeted approach to it and really honing in that marketing. Again, we'll use the example of wanting financial freedom for your family. Maybe you've got younger kids, maybe you're late 30s, early 40s, something like that, and finding other people who identify with that and then speaking directly to them. That's the biggest thing that I see. That's a pretty, I would say, quicker and easier improvement to actually take your capital raising game up to the next level. Because instead of throwing everything out there to whoever might see it, you're specifically targeting those who would be interested, and you'll be saving time and money and resources across the board.
Do you have anybody that they're comfortable raising, let's say like 200,000, and the thought of going to a higher number, let's say 2 million, and they're a little freaked out by the response, like that feels like there's more responsibility, or they're going to be held to a higher level of accountability, or something like it's almost like a fear of success. Like if I start doing like operating at that level, I'm going to be at a higher level of responsibility, and I'm not sure I'm capable of that. Again, that's a capacity limit, right? I don't know if I can handle more. So have you had people come to you with that kind of thought process?
I have, yes. It is scary. And going from a couple 100,000 to the millions is very scary. You feel more responsible. You have more investors to take care of and to keep relationships with. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen help there is just the process around it. Because the process is from going from 200, maybe that's friends or family kind of capital raise, to 2 million, which is usually going to find brand new investors, bring them into your network and building those relationships the same way you might have with the old group. It will be a little bit different, and it will be a different process, and maybe even slightly different message, maybe a little bit more polished. But I think that's mainly it that feels so scary, is it feels overwhelming, and you're like, oh my gosh, well now I've got all these people I don't know that are going to be having such high expectations of the results. I think the best and easiest way to transition is just through really honing in your systems and your process. And then it should be somewhat of a smooth transition. And then once you get there, you'll say, okay, well, that was pretty fun. Actually, that wasn't so bad. And now I've got this cool system in place that really helps keep me organized. And now I don't have to spend all my time feeling overwhelmed because I've got notes in different places and I'm working off an Excel spreadsheet. And I think that's what I've seen be the biggest helper in that scenario.
I could not agree more, because I was talking to Jen Boss, she comes on this podcast. She does the financials, some money talks. And we were talking about how when you're small, you can kind of get away with a little bit of chaos and mess because the smallness you can manage. But then as you try to do something at a bigger scale and you have this growth that you're trying to create, it exposes breakdowns in your system, and it exposes some of the things that are bottlenecks that need to be cleaned up. And so being thoughtful about how will you handle that at a bigger scale. Maybe it's a capacity thing from a limiting belief side of thing. Like, am I capable? Or maybe the better question to ask yourself is, what do I need to have in place to make sure that I am capable of handling it? And I'm hearing systems and processes to handle that. And I don't want to go too much into how to, but just for awareness, what are some of those common systems that someone would need to address that would be fine with family and friends, but not fine as you get bigger?
Great question. I think the two would be a proper CRM, customer relationship manager. So you're managing all of your investors and all of your potential leads in one spot. So you don't forget to nurture them, and you can kind of tell exactly where they're at in that process. And then having a proper investor portal is one that you probably don't need with friends and family. But once you start raising outside capital and at the couple $1 million scale, you really should have. It keeps everything compliant and clean and encrypted and safe when you're looking at signing subscriptions and wiring funds and sending out reports and K1s and things. Those are the two that I would focus on making sure are really tidied up before going to that next level.
An investor portal, so it's a secure place for an exchange of information that's required legally for these types of capital raising. I got it. Okay, great. Okay, so what is it that you don't get to talk about enough? You're on a lot of podcasts. I see you out talking about what you do, but what is it that you wish that more people knew and it drives you bonkers?
I wish more people knew that while yes, the marketing and the systems and everything out there are really important, the most important thing at the most basic level is having a relationship with your investors personally and taking the time to build that, because that is going to make the biggest difference for not only your confidence in your investor base and continuing to get referrals from them and grow that more organically, but also from a conversion standpoint. It's going to make the largest difference. And I wish more people took that more seriously and really put an emphasis on that, because once you think about capital raising and get into it, there's so many pieces that it's so overwhelming. But just focusing on that one piece of it, if you can't do anything else, will make the biggest difference.
The relationships, that it's actually a people business.
Yes.
What turns you off about, like, what do people say that like just makes you go, ugh, like this is not going to work like that? Go ahead, be honest. Like, let's get into it. Come on.
When people are disingenuous or they're not being transparent when they're trying to build relationships, or they're providing false promises or guaranteeing things that they should not be, that's a big turnoff. And for people who are just starting investing, they don't know the difference that is a good or bad thing. And they think, okay, well, this person seems pretty legit, but sounds like what they're selling is great. But just not being honest and transparent and true to yourself is absolutely the biggest turnoff, because people can usually see through it. If not right off the bat, they will eventually. And
yeah, it'll come out at some point. And I had a couple episodes ago, we talked about vetting people that you are investing with. And if you take people for their word sometimes, especially if they're in that fake it till you make it sort of, I hate fake it till you make it. I used to tell people fake it till you make it. And the intention behind it is really, you're going to feel like an imposter on the inside. It doesn't mean pretend like you know what you're doing when you don't.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. So, and then on the flip side, what would you tell someone who's an introvert, who is like, nurturing relationships feels really like an energy depleting task?
That's a good question. So, kind of as a general sales principle, which I know raising capital is not exactly sales, but it has some sales elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're properly asking for capital or raising capital, whatever that is, really the investor should be doing about 80% of the talking. So I actually think that introverts kind of have a hand up there, because the extroverts will go out and spend the whole 30 minutes on the phone with the investor talking. And it's really hard to train folks like that to reel it back in and only spend 20% of that time talking. So let the investor do the talking. And that's going to be the best way to help build that relationship and figure out what the investor is looking for and why they're looking to invest, and kind of get to know them. People love to talk about themselves, and that really does help build trust subconsciously, even on that first touch point. So I think introverts have nothing to worry about, because they're already naturally probably talking less. So that's great. Let the investors do the talking. Come prepared with some open-ended questions so that there's an awkward silence, or you feel like, oh gosh, I don't know what to say next. You've got some ideas, right, to continue to guide the conversation along.
What kinds of questions would you suggest?
I suggest open-ended questions to try to pinpoint what the investor is looking to do. So asking them, what's been your favorite investment so far? Or why are you looking to invest? Like, what is driving this interest? Or even something as simple as, tell me, your thoughts on the economy right now. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Where are you at in your thoughts on this and kind of your risk level? So just trying to figure out where they're at, what their timeline is, what their interests are. Open-ended questions are simple like that. And even personal questions, tell me about your family. What do you do for your day job? What do you like to do for fun? That kind of silly stuff really helps build relationships, and it kind of takes the pressure off of the deal itself and gets the focus back on the people at hand. So those are some of my favorite.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting how much people want to go and they want to go right to the deal. They want to start pitching. And I think sometimes it comes from not wanting to take up someone's time and wanting to be just so laser. And our culture has really lended towards all like, let's be business, let's be laser, let's not take a lot of time. Yes, it's in. No, it's not. Very transactional, like you talked about earlier, that turns people off. And I think if you have someone who doesn't want to have a relationship or talk to you, like, is that really the best partner or best person to bring into your investment, right? Because it's not about the bigger picture. It's about something very transactional.
Exactly. And when the deal potentially doesn't go well for a month or for the entire deal, which happens, right? Then that's going to completely change the landscape of the relationship. But when you are building it on you and the investor, and it's a personal thing, if something doesn't go well, it's a quick, and yes, it can be a hard communication, but it's a communication, it's an honest conversation, and then life is still good, usually.
Yeah. We so often make an assumption that when something doesn't go well, it's like the end all be all, right? And it's really not. It's just life. And it's part of investing, right? Investing involves risk. And so sometimes in anything, in the stock market, things are going to go up and things are going to go down. Investing in real estate, sometimes there's things that we didn't anticipate, market shifts, political policies that go in place, things shift. And so that is part of investing. If you don't have that risk tolerance, then you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And so having those difficult conversations can alleviate so much when there's a relationship, right?
Exactly.
When you care about that person. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your book, because I know you've piqued people's interest and they're like, I'm really nervous about this, but also I'm really curious about this. So tell me a little bit about what's your book called?
Yeah, so it's called Beyond the Lead. Got my non-resale copy. The actual one's on Amazon now, but it's essentially a 3-part guide into talking about, hey, you probably don't need more leads, especially if you've been raising capital before. You just need to figure out how to nurture them, build those relationships more properly, and put the right systems and processes in place to convert more capital. And so it gives a quick overview of building the foundation, and then the 4 pillars of how to actually attract investors, and then just putting that holistic strategy together over one whole quarter, right? So it gives a nice step-by-step guide to each part of the capital raise ecosystem.
What I love about what you said to me before was like, somebody really could take my book and just go do it. And how often do we read books and then not do it because there's some kind of capacity problem? There's some kind of mindset challenge that's in the way, some kind of upper limit. And so for those people who read it and find themselves not taking action on it, when someone comes to work with you, what is that experience like?
Sure. So it's exactly that. It's taking that capacity limit, because capital raising really, at some scale, is a business within the business. And it's taking a lot of that pressure off of them, because usually when they've got folks raising capital and doing deals, they have a smaller team. They've got to focus on doing the deals part. And maybe their strongest suit isn't raising the capital and putting the marketing materials together and nurturing the investor leads and all that goes into it. So we provide either advisory or full implementation support for folks at any stage of the capital journey, wherever they need it. And so the only thing we don't do is raise the capital directly for them, because again, that relationship needs to be with them, because that's the longevity of bringing referrals and having repeat investors and everything else. So wherever they don't have the capacity is where we step in and act as a fractional role.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
So find me on LinkedIn or my website, equity-elevated.com. It's probably the 2 best ways.
Equity-elevated. Equity Elevated is where we will find you. And they can check out your book on Amazon. We will link it for you in the show notes. Any final words?
Final words are that, again, I would just reemphasize, everyone had to start somewhere. Everyone's had a deal gone wrong. Just find that confidence within yourself to get out of your head and try again, or start or wherever you're at. And once you do it, it won't be as scary as you think.
Love that. So with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, he would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe And take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.